The last time I gave you a Transport Evolved fleet update from the Gordon Bloomfield household, it was nice and warm and sunny. Today, it's barely above freezing. We had our first snow of the season yesterday. It didn't stick, and it's been snaining on and off today with a little bit of sleet thrown in. And I look a little bit like the Michelin woman because I've got a heated jacket on underneath this particular outer coat. But anyway, with my hands firmly in the pocket, let's tell you what's been going on with the fleet. Because while Ortega's, the F150 Lightning, has been behaving herself impeccably and got a couple of software updates, the Ford home integration system has stopped working again, just in time for a massive storm and likely power cuts. But I've been making some tweaks to the Bolt EV that are really cool, and I want to tell you all about them. Let's start our fleet roundup with the easier vehicle to talk about today. That's Ortega's, my F150 Lightning Lariat. As regulars to the channel will know, I used to have a different F150 Lightning that unfortunately was written off back at the start of the year when we had a particularly nasty bit of winter weather pass through. But Ortega's has been in the family now since March and has been doing really well. A lot of people criticize us for owning this truck and say it's really inefficient. It doesn't, it doesn't fit the vibe of the channel. But I want to reiterate here that we've got literally 5,500 miles on the clock of this truck that we have done since March. And most of that has been doing longer distance trips, taking the team to events. Obviously, this can carry everybody. The Chevrolet Bolt cannot. But in preparation for the winter, we have recently put some brand new Nokian Hakkapeliitta R5 SUVs on, and I wanted to discuss this really quickly because it turns out that there are two slightly different variants of the Nokian Hakkapeliitta R5 SUVs. There's one you can buy that is not rated to work with this truck. The vehicle's weight is larger than the maximum allowable for the tyre. And I didn't realise this until I went to a tyre shop and tried to order them, and the tyre shop refused. And that was because the person behind the counter didn't know that there was a higher spec tyre in stock that would work, the XL rating. So I reached out to Nokia and I was like, hey, what do I need to ask them for? And they provided me with the exact details. I got the higher spec'd version of the tyre, literally the same physical dimensions, it's just this one is rated to carry the extra weight, and so therefore I can safely and legally install them on this truck and use them. They are great winter tyres. It's great to have the grip back. It's great to have the ability to just handle the slightly wet, slimy, icy roads we get up here in the mountains in the winter. And while if you want proper ice grip handling, you should really choose studded tyres. We don't get enough ice and snow here to make that a good choice, because studs, even specialist studded winter tyres, can still do some road damage. And if you haven't already watched the video that we did with Nokian talking about developing winter tyres and how Nokian's just celebrated a pretty major anniversary in its history, go check that out. It is on the channel. I'll make sure I leave that in the link below. In terms of driving and behaviour, Ortega's has been absolutely fine, has not had an official first service yet, although I think we'll get one round about the end of the year. You're supposed to get them done every year or so, or every so many thousand miles, and we're nowhere near that first 10,000 mile interval yet, so we'll probably get that one done at the end of the year or early next. And we've had a couple of software updates. There's been an update to give us improved icons inside. There's also been the karaoke update, so that people can use the touchscreen display to sing along to hits when you're charging. If I sound a little bit peeved about that, I am, because there are other issues with this vehicle that other people are suffering, and Ford is rolling out silly features to compete with Tesla. And I don't know a single person who was super excited about the pushing of a software update that allows you to use the touchscreen display to play karaoke with your friends while you're charging, because most people get out of the vehicle and go and get a coffee or go and have a pee or grab a burger or whatever they're going to do. What is useful, though, is there's now been an update to the charging system or the charging application inside the truck's infotainment system. That means that you can look for and navigate to, importantly, charging stations while you are on the road. Obviously, you shouldn't be touching the center console if you are driving, but if you have a passenger with you, and I'm guessing most people who long distance drive on a road trip are going to have someone with them, that person in the passenger seat can figure out where you're going to charge next. And it's really useful. It's very quick. It works well. Good job, Ford. That's a bonus. But what's not a good job is the home integration system. It stopped working again. Now, I have started to lose patience with the home integration system. It doesn't work as it should. It has been a pain in the butt. And now when you turn off the power or you have a power cut, the truck sits here and makes lots of whirring and clicking sounds. I can hear whirring and clicking sounds on the side of the house, but the light on the charge port door never goes green. The CCS plug never gets latched to the vehicle, so that last bit of the preparation doesn't work. Now, I'm lucky because I have contacts at Ford and I've reached out to them and they are looking into it and they are looking at the logs. I've done a couple of test sessions to try and give Ford good data so that Ford can try and figure out how to do it. But at this point, as I said in a previous video, if you haven't yet put a home integration system in, don't, because it's just not worth it. But that said, I still have Pro Power, so I can still power the home, the important things in the home, from the bed of the truck. The only thing I cannot power in a power cut without the home integration system right now is my well pump and my septic system, and obviously also my heating in the house. So I would have to run like a small bar heater or something if we lost power at the moment, and I just wouldn't be able to flush the loo or use water, sorry. That's frustrating, but it's not a deal killer for me at this time. I just hope Ford sorts it out. Ortega's done. Let's show you the fun stuff. So in case you don't know, this is Orion. This is my wife's 2017 Chevrolet Bolt EV Premier. It was a top spec model when it rolled off the production line in 2017. It's one of the earlier model year examples. It's had a new battery pack under the battery recall program. It now has somewhere between 130 and 140,000 miles on the clock, is behaving impeccably. We made some changes to the car in the last couple of months that I haven't talked about on camera before. And if you've watched the channel for a length of time, you'll know that we've done a whole load of different things to this vehicle to upgrade it and improve on it under the guise of improve the vehicle you have rather than go out and buy a brand new one. But because of some uncertainty around our future in the light of the US presidential election, I opted to make some small changes to the car off camera, and this is basically me explaining them all to you. Boring stuff. We added some new wipers. These are Rain-X ones. They have a new funky deflector and a thing to tell you when your wipers stop working. I've never used that before. I've never really found those to be particularly useful, but hey, it's a gimmick. I want to see if the gimmick works or not. So that's something we put on just to see if it actually does what it says it does. And in a separate video on the channel, we're going to be replacing the 12-volt lead acid battery with something a little bit more modern. That video actually may drop before this one. We're not entirely sure which way we're going to push them out, because obviously we're making some content before Thanksgiving that will go out between now and the end of November. So I'm not sure which way around it's going to be. But the last time I talked about this car, I showed you a massive dent in the front of the car, or rather crack on this front trim piece here. I'd hit a flock of birds and one of the birds smashed into the front of the car and cracked this trim piece. And I found a replacement online on eBay for about $110. And rather than go through my insurance, I decided, hey, I'd just try and do it myself. Replacing that took about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'll talk you through some of the changes that we needed to make shortly. But I did something else while I was putting that piece in, and let's show it to you now, if I can find the thing. You ready? That's right. We've got hydraulic struts. I know it's overkill, but there's a company online that you can buy these hydraulic struts for, and it's a kit that allows you to put hydraulic struts onto the hood of your Bolt. It's totally overkill. It's not required because look, all Bolts came with this little strut, but this requires two hands. You have to lift it up and then you have to clip it on. Whereas the hydraulic struts, you can do that one-handed, and it also makes closing it a lot easier as well. If you look, it just falls down nicely there, and that's all I need to do to open it up. Eventually, I would like to put like a little caddy, a 3D printed caddy on top of this inverter box here. And I'm hoping that would be useful for storing like a charge cable or something like that. Haven't done that yet, haven't replaced the 12-volt battery, but those two things are definitely in the pipeline. Putting this in wasn't too difficult. Getting the spanners or the wrenches in underneath this particular cross member was a pain in the butt. Putting this bit on was absolutely fine, and I just used a standard socket arrangement to tighten everything up. I didn't tighten it to a particular torque setting, but so far, so good. I'm going to come back and check this in a couple of weeks' time to make sure it's still solid and still operational. But right now it works incredibly well. Let's talk about what I had to do to take this part off and replace it. So the first thing I had to do was pop out these trim pieces here. And if you're looking to do this in a Bolt or any other EV, you really should invest in a trim removal tool. These little pins are two-part pins, and you have to make sure you lift the top part out to safely remove it, otherwise you'll break it. I did actually break one of those pins taking it out and putting it back in, but everything else worked pretty easily. There's a couple of screws you have to take out, this one here and this one here. They're kind of star-headed bolts that you can take out, and then this whole top piece clips or unclips from this portion here. Again, there are clips all the way through the front, and I actually broke one of the clips there. You can see it's slightly rattly, but for daily driving it's fine, and I suspect at some point if I see one of these available online, I'll just go out and buy a replacement. Taking this out and replacing it, that was more difficult because you have to get inside. There's two bolts inside you have to undo, and then you have to unclip a load of clips inside, pull out the old unit, and then put the new one in. Now, getting the old one out was easy. Putting the new one in without scratching the lights, without scratching this, and without scratching this bumper, that was a pain in the butt, but I was able to get everything in and push it back together and fit it. Like I said, the whole process took a couple of hours, and then I put these on as well. But now Orion looks nice again. I did keep the original bow tie from the original grille, and I may or may not be investigating the possibility of making an illuminated grille at some point in the near future. I do also, though, want to tell you, isn't that lovely, about two other things that I've done to this car that I haven't talked about. The first one is that there is a new fork of Frog Pilot that is specifically for the Chevrolet Bolt EV. When I first installed the Comma 3 unit in this car, and I installed the interceptor pedal, I installed OPGM, which is the Open Pilot GM branch. That is an older project, but in the last couple of months, I switched over to Frog Pilot, which has a lot more features and has been really good and helped this car improve some of its semi-autonomous and lane keep assistance capabilities. Over the weekend, though, I installed Star Pilot, which is a fork of Frog Pilot that is designed specifically for Bolt EVs. And if you install Star Pilot, you have two different options. There's one for all of the Bolts after 2017, and then there's one for 2017 Bolts because they have special hardware. So I have the 2017 specific Star Pilot fork installed on our Comma 3, and so far so good. I'm going to be playing with some of the driving models over the coming weeks, but it's already really good. And on Sunday, I let this car drive itself from the valley to my house without me having to touch the steering once. I did obviously have my hands on the steering wheel ready to take over, but it managed to make it all the way back to the house with nary a problem, no issues. That is a phenomenal improvement over what this car originally had, which was basically nothing. It had lane keep assist from the factory, which was really terrible and didn't really work. And to think that like a $1,000 to $2,000 piece of hardware and a few extra bits and bobs in the car can bring you in line with basically Tesla autopilot-esque performance is incredible. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that you should rely on OpenPilot. You definitely shouldn't rely on something like Frog Pilot or Star Pilot to do all the driving for you. You can't take your eyes off the road, but it is there as a safety feature, and if you use it appropriately, seems to be working really nicely. The final thing I want to throw your way, the thing that has bugged me about this car since I've owned it, is the fact that there is no auto-dimming side view mirrors. Now, in this particular trim of the Bolt, you do get an auto dimming mirror in the middle of the car. The rear view mirror that you have inside the car auto dims. If there is a car behind you with bright enough headlights, it will auto dim down. And I found out there's a little button on the back of that mirror that allows you to adjust how it responds to light, which I didn't know anything about until about 3 months ago when I was playing with it one night. But what we decided to do was to install some tinted film on the rear view mirrors that allows you to have a photochromic-esque dimming experience at nighttime. It's from a team on Etsy, and I'll put the link in the description. This is not endorsed, and do so at your own risk. But if you put those 2 pieces of film, one on each mirror, on, it means during the daylight you do have slightly reduced visibility in certain conditions because you get a little bit of extra haze. Nothing that I've found has been particularly problematic, but at nighttime you get vastly improved rearward visibility because in North America people tend to ignore the whole drive with dipped headlights thing. They drive with their full beams on all the time, especially the big pickup drivers in rural areas, and it's very easy to be blinded from behind. It's something I particularly have issues with because of various eye conditions that I have. I have prisms in my glasses, and I also have had other eye problems over the years that mean that, you know, if someone is behind me and they've got their full brights on, it can be very difficult for me to see clearly around them. I just see that glaring light, and these particular film pieces on the mirrors have really helped me a bunch. There are some other upgrades that we still need to finish. My wife has been on me to put the center touchscreen display in and replace that because the one that's in there is broken. She still wants me to do the wireless charging. I haven't forgotten, but we are a small channel, so I hope you'll forgive us that it's taken a while for us to get to this point. And then in the future, I may put in sequential turn signals. I've been toying with the idea. I think I've talked about it once before, but that maybe is for further down the line after we've done everything else. But keep your eyes peeled for the battery video. It's dropping soon. Thanks for joining me today. And wait, I forgot Hema. For those who don't know, this is Hema, my Vectrix VX-1. Hema stopped working about a year ago, and I have been promising you a video on Hema. We were going to replace the batteries with either batteries from a Nissan Leaf or something similar to give me up to 20 kilowatt hours of storage for use and a range well in excess of about 150 miles, maybe 200 miles for city riding. However, because of the US election, because of everything else that's been going on this year, I still haven't had a chance to work on Hema. Now you can see I have actually removed the seat, I've removed the battery cover. This is the battery pack here. The battery pack is in a bad way. It is completely shot. This is a little power supply that I bought online that is trying to keep the battery pack at about 120 volts, but the pack is no longer taking a charge. If I turn that power supply off, then the bike stops taking any power at all. And if I put my key in, it will power on, it will light up, but then it doesn't properly turn back off again. So that fault that we had last winter is back. During the summer, it vanished. If I take the key out, you'll see that the dashboard continues to light up. So there's definitely a voltage leak somewhere in here. We've also lost the rear light. That has stopped working. Unfortunately, with everything else going on, while I would love to get Hammer back on the road this year, it's just not going to happen. I have actually talked to somebody locally about possibly selling Hammer because there are other things that we need to worry about right now. It is my hope that we can get Hammer back on the road. I do have a centre stand coming all the way from Spain, which should be arriving pretty shortly. I will put that on to help lift that rear wheel off the ground. I really want to get Hammer working again, but I think this is going to be a longer project than I wanted it to be. And a bit like the wonderful Mr. Dunn, I have too many projects. But nevertheless, Hammer, I promise I'll try and get you back on the road. That really now is it from the fleet. No more vehicles to share, no more vehicles to talk about. And this now really is. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me today, and if you've got some thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord chat room, our Patreon page, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They are some of the more than 1,500 people who help fund this channel through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and making sure that we can remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. There are a range of different tiers that you can sign up for from as little as $1 a month, or if you pay yearly, just over $10 a year. A huge welcome to our newest supporters: Alan Brim, Jim, Sarah Horlock, full name, Todd Johnson, Roderick, Stuart Despain, Rupert Ronson, Larry Phoenix, Darla, Wendy Kelly Bundenbaum, and Kay. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your moment of fame. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll also find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have a good old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at, address also linked below. And of course, if you're in need of some swag, you'll find our swag store in the down below. We've also got some great content coming up, so make sure you're subscribed on PeerTube or YouTube, and we'll see you soon. We make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want more, the mighty algorithm thinks you'll like this video, but we also think this one is well worth a look. See you soon, and as always, keep evolving!